Welcome back to the KEG Access Summer Institute. My name is Dr. Julie Nyberg, and I serve as Executive Director for the California Association for the Gifted.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Goodwin, and I serve as the president-elect for the California Association for the Gifted.
Don't hesitate to participate in this webinar by using the chat and adding comments or asking questions using the Q&A tab during this session.
Be part of CAG by becoming a member today as an individual or a school site. Sign up at www.cagifted.org by clicking on membership. This session will last from 2 to 2:50 p.m. and the next session will begin at 3 p.m. using the same link you used to log into the session.
I have the distinct honor of introducing Erika Mejia. Erika Mejia is a dedicated and passionate educator with over 10 years of experience in education. She's a fourth grade teacher who is passionate about serving underrepresented GATE students in South Los Angeles. Erika holds a Master of Arts in Teaching degree from the University of Southern California and the Rossier School of Education. She has collaborated with Dr. Sandra Kaplan on various GATE grants for over 6 years. Welcome, Erika. We're so happy to have you with us.
Hi, everyone. So excited to be here. All right, so let's get started. All right, so today my presentation is going to be about how to weave all of the GATE tools that we have been provided throughout the years. Maybe you've seen them throughout the Institute this summer, and how to include those tools and strategies into our daily lessons. So again, here's a little background of myself. I've taught LAUSD for 7 years, and they've already said hello to us. So here's some reminders. So if you have any questions, just place them in the chat. I will get to them at the end of the session, or if we have any breaks in between, I will get to them. If you have any digital access to your curriculum, if possible, we might have some time to use it at the end of our session. So see if you can have that available to you. And then also there are some spots where you would have some interactive pieces. So you might, if you have access to your phone, there's a QR code that you can join into those interactive pieces on the presentation. Here's my email. If you ever need to reach me, I'm always available to you. All right, so the objective again is for us to be able to plan and integrate GATE tools and strategies with your district adopted curriculum. Okay, so I'm going to show you the curriculum that I have on my district has adopted, but it is adaptable to any curriculum. So here are the strategies that I will be talking about, and most of you will know a lot about both of them, but some of us might not. So these are the two that I will be covering. So the first one will be the problems of depth and complexity, and then the next one will be things like a disciplinary. All right. So prompts of depth and complexity are used for differentiation, cue students to add depth and understanding to concepts, all concepts, and improve critical thinking skills. The benefits to these are the students get a deeper understanding of the content that you are currently covering. There's increased engagement of all students. Students become expert thinkers. It is adaptable across all disciplines. It is for K through 12, not just the littles, and is for all learners. So yes, it's for gifted students, but all students, ELs, and everyone benefits from them. So I'm not really going to go through all of these. I got this from a PD that I went to a few years ago, and it kind of just helps you kind of figure it out. So here's some of the icons. Here's some of the depth element icons. So you have your language of the disciplines, your details, patterns, trends, and answer questions. And these icons provide you the ability to ask key questions. They provide with specific thinking skills. And they also provide opportunities for students to use different types of resources to gain access to more information. So here's some more. Here are rules, impact, process, motive, proof, ethics, and big ideas. And we continue on. These are the complexity icons over time, different points of view, interdisciplinary relationships, context, and translate. And also we have original and judgment. So the way in which there's different ways to apply these, but one of the main ones that I use, especially with curriculum, is frames. So frames come in lots of different ways. It can be a frame with only 2 sections. It can be a frame that's a circle. It can be a diamond. It could be anything, honestly. And it provides you and also students, depending on how you create your frame. Students can ask their own questions by using their own prompts, or you can provide them with the prompts and the questions to kind of guide them through the analyzing of whatever it is that you're doing. So here's a fun one. So here is a frame for Harry Potter. So here we have 4 different prompts that were given. And these prompts gave way for questions. So the first one is language of the discipline. So what special vocabularies you need to the wizarding world? And then interdisciplinary, we have how might a historian, sociologist, or scientist analyze the wizarding world? And then we have change over time. So how do characters, relationships, and societal structures evolve through the series? And then the last one is trends. What societal trends impacts characters and their relationships? So you just kind of pose these questions, you give them the map, and then they go about and answer the questions. I kind of like to put these off to the side so the kids can kind of turn the paper as they answer the questions. They kind of like that more than the standard way. So here's our first interactive. So go ahead and scan the QR code. I'm going to give you maybe 4 minutes. And you're just going to answer the questions that we just posed in the frame. It's okay if you can't. Oh, Muggle's a big one. Yeah. The rise and fall of power. That's really big. The idea of power, it's such a great universal concept to cover. Yeah, that's a really good point. And how historians might look at Harry Potter using the groups and how they play a role in society. Oh, becoming a martyr. About one more minute. If you have any more ideas, just kind of throw them in there. If you don't, that's okay. Completely understand. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Right. My kids really love this question. This is one of the practice questions that I give the kids. And the idea of scientists looking at the wizarding world and how it doesn't necessarily fit, you know, our concepts of physics and that kind of thing. So they kind of really, really love those kinds of questions and get really deep with it. All right. I'm going to stop it right there. Thank you for these discussions. I really, really appreciate it. So we are really good at this type of question. So one of the things that we really need to be aware of is that we introduce these concepts to the kids at the beginning of the year. Sometimes they just need a refresher. I teach fourth grade and I teach the fourth grade cohort. And in our school, most of the students get identified around third grade, at the end of third grade, mid to third. So when they come to me, it's the first time that they are really exposed to the prompts. So it's really important that you take the time and practice the prompts, have the prompts all around you, have them available to them, have the definition available to them, and have a lot of opportunity to practice them. So the idea is for them to be able to see the prompt, and then they get prompted to analyze things in a certain way. But then also, I mean, eventually down the line, they no longer need the visual prompt. They can just see the prompt, mentally, and then they can process and analyze that way. So yes, we can use this in ELA and social studies and science. It's very easy to use it that way. But we can also use them in math. So here's a fourth grade question. Claire donated 48 books. She donated 6 times as many books as Andre. How many books did Andre donate? So again, using different prompts, using the vocabulary one is a big one, especially when we're trying to introduce academic vocabulary. So then analyzing the prompts and then being able to take out that vocabulary from there, the details of the question. So what are the key details that will help you solve the problem? Are there any unanswered questions? My kids really love this because they have tons of questions and it leads to more findings and more discoveries, which is really cool. But in this one specifically is, are there any unknowns in this problem? If so, what remains unknown? And in 4th grade, this is a big thing. The unknown number is so big. So this prompt really helps them analyze the question and figure those things out. And then rules. What mathematical strategies or rules can help them solve the problem? So then here's where they strategize the different tools and methods that they have been exposed to, and then they kind of, write it down, and then they try to execute the problem. So we're going to go into think like a disciplinarian, and what does the word discipline mean to you? So this time I'm just going to use a chat. So what do you think the word discipline means? What does it mean to you? Steady. Definitely. That's what the students think all the time. Definitely, the kids think it's a punishment. Absolutely. Ian, bird is great. Birdseed, love birdseed. If you're an LUSD, they often give different licenses for the different schools. So if you get an opportunity, fill those out. But yes, it's think like an expert. Absolutely. So discipline refers to the nature of categorizing information. So it's knowing and doing. Okay, so knowing how to do something, such as art, and then doing something is the artist. So the artist does art. So there's an endless list of disciplines. These are just some that I have in my classroom. I created these maps and I have them on the wall. I can't share them with you, unfortunately, because they're actual pictures of the people and I don't have licenses for them, but you can easily do them on Canva. And I just have them on there. And what we do is we like to play this game called Pick a Player. And with Pick a Player is we take on those players' glasses and then we analyze different things using the player. So thinking like a disciplinarian is it's used for differentiation as well. So it cues students to add depth and understanding of concepts and improves critical thinking skills. And again, here are the key aspects of it. So it follows methods and procedures of concept framework. It structures a approach to problem solving. It utilizes disciplinary language, which is a big thing. It's unique in view. It uses unique viewpoints and interpretations. It's interdisciplinary, which is big. We want to make sure that the kids see that there's connections with everything from math to science, science to PE, PE to art and dance. So the list goes on and on. And again, it's for all learners. So yes, we are targeting students who are gifted and talented. However, we have a mixture of students in our classroom and they all benefit from this and they all have the capability of doing it. They actually have a lot of fun doing it too. So thinking like a disciplinarian, so you have your disciplinarian, a historian per se. Their focuses are on looking for biases, ethics, context, and evidence. Here's some tools that they use. They use primary sources, oral history, qualitative and quantitative studies. They have different types of language that they used, chronology, era, prehistoric, antiquity, CE, BCE versus AD, those kinds of ideas. And here's some questions that they might ask. So how may time and place influence the creation of source? What were the consequences of blank, right? So you just put in the thing. So thinking like a disciplinarian allows you to ask very specific types of questions. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do so as well. So here are 3 different disciplinarians: a biologist, an engineer, a gastronomist. So I think you may know all of them. If you don't know gastronomy, it's just the history of food and the chemistry of food and that kind of idea. The kids really love that one because they really love Gordon Ramsay. So they gravitate towards gastronomy. But what you're going to do in the next slide, you're going to continue on with the slide deck. You are going to choose a disciplinarian of your choice: biologist, engineer, or gastronomist. And you're going to provide a discipline focus, tools that they might use, language that is very specific to their discipline, and a possible question that the disciplinarian might want answers, or maybe a question that they might have. So go ahead. I'm going to give you four minutes for this one. Mm-hmm. I had a student 2 years ago who loved cooking. His parents owned a restaurant in South LA. And one of the things that he was obsessed over was to look at how recipes changed over time, or looking at how one person's recipe is very similar to another, but very different, and would like to note those differences. So it really makes the kids think, and it also allows for students to really gain some interests, especially those who haven't had the opportunity to think this way, to learn different likes that they might have. And it makes them really lean on them and learn new things, which is really awesome. Yeah, software engineers, Python, Java, and JavaScript. The constant change in technology. Yeah. Biologists that maybe the ethics of having animals in captivity, right? There's pros and cons to it. Yeah. Sustainability, huge. The idea of sustainability for all of them too, for the engineer, for the gastronomist, for the biologist. Yeah, that's big right now too, especially with AI, is an idea of how far can we use it before it really just destroys us, right? And what are ethical ways to use it, especially in our classrooms when it's easy to input a question and then answer. But I think this idea of asking these types of questions, using the prompts of depth and complexity and think like a disciplinarian to help you create a distinct question that isn't exactly available for you to find the answer online without having to do some proper research, which is a big up on these tools. All right, thank you for joining with this question. All right, so show how all four pieces could be related to the discipline. So thinking like a disciplinarian allows us to look at different items and see how one discipline can really make a connection or a relation between all four items, right? So think like a mathematician. What would a mathematician notice or wonder about how all of these items connect? Or a fashion designer, a psychologist, choreographer, so on and so forth. So I'm going to give you a minute to kind of, maybe 30 seconds to kind of look at these four questions, these four items here that we have, four pictures. We have the Lakers. This one here in the corner is Cinderella, the story of Cinderella. Here is the Walt Disney Concert Hall. So that's like a mock of it. And then here's a painting of 5 dancers in a circle. So you're going to use one disciplinarian. You have, again, your mathematician, your fashion designer, your psychologist, your choreographer, and how can they relate those 4 questions to each other based on their vision. So based on their discipline and their focus, how can they relate those 4 pictures? Yeah, fluidity, love that word. Angles, geometry, absolutely. Mm. Well, that allows our best movement. Form versus function. Absolutely. Kobe Bryant needs to talk about how, whether it's lore or not, but he used to say that he used to watch Black Mamba videos to help him move around the court. So you're not very far from that. So I'm sure if he did it, it's constantly used. Mhm. About 30 more seconds if you would like to answer the question before we move on. All right. All right. So now here we are going to finally do what I told you we were going to do, is applying the tools and strategies to core curriculum. We're going to talk about what to do before the core lesson, what to do during the core lesson, and then what to do, options of what to do after the core lesson. All right, so here's a little background about what I'm about to show you. So my district has adopted CKLA, and the second unit is all about empires of the Middle Ages. And on this specific lesson, lesson 2, students are learning about the hierarchy in medieval Europe, and specifically about lords and serfs. In the first lesson, they've already learned about kings and queens, okay? So in this lesson, you're going to get an opportunity to read a little excerpt of the unit. But right before this unit, they have already talked about the lords, okay? So here is before the lesson. So the standard, again, standard based, we are doing, again, 4th grade. And this is reading informational text. And so it refers to details and examples of a text when explaining what the text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from the text. So that is what I am focused on. Okay, so the curriculum objective is this. Students will refer to details and examples in the text when explaining the relationships between lords and serfs. It's fine, right? But I need to differentiate for my students. So for all of my students. So this is a differentiated objective. So students will be able to evaluate the ethical implications of the lord and serf relationships using textual evidence to support their claims. We'll conduct a brief independent study using a self-selected discipline at the very end. Okay, so that's going to be their final project. So before the lesson, this is the big question that CKLA gives me. So how were the lives of the serfs and lords different from each other, right? But I want to ump it up a little bit. I want to make it exciting for my kids, especially for those who are requiring a challenge. And so this is the big question that I created. So how did the ethical implications of the imbalance of power impact the daily lives of lords and serfs? Okay. And then if you want to go an extra mile, you might want to tie it into a universal theme. So power is the ability to influence. So this allows the students to make connections to power in, like our last question with multiplication, right? In science, they can make connections to science. They can make connections to their PE. So they can make connections, again, interdisciplinary, just with the idea of power. So again, this is the first work that the students they're being asked to do through CKLA. Okay, so it says write one sentence for each of the 4 images to describe what the serf might be doing in each image. Refer to the text if I were a surf boy surf to find evidence to support your response. Incorporate vocabulary words from the text when possible and use complete sentences. Sure, this is fine for some of the kids, but for most of my kids, they need a challenge. So I'm going, instead of doing this, I'm going to use some of the elements of that, maybe the picture. And oh, I'm sorry, before I do that, this is the other thing that the kids have been given, another work, which I kind of like. It's a retrieval chart, so we can use it while we read. And it allows that. So that I am going to use, but I'm going to move on from that, and I'm going to create a chart for them. Okay, so I'm going to create the map for them. So I've used 4 different icons. The only thing I interchanged from the Harry Potter one was the impact one, and I created questions that I want the kid to kind of guide the kids to having a deeper understanding of what they are being asked to do. Okay. So the first question is, what specific vocabulary is unique to the life of a surf boy? How might blank analyze the lives of the lords and serfs? This is where they're going to choose a player. They're going to use a perspective. They're going to choose a perspective, and they're going to stick to it. And they're going to analyze, which allows them to go beyond the surf level, right? So yes, they can learn facts and that kind of thing, but we want them to think critically. And then the impact question is, what are the ethical implications on the serf and his position in the hierarchy? So we want them to think about that. We want them to think about the impact of all the ethical issues that are happening during that time. And then trends. What trends impact the lives of the serf? So we want them to kind of think about those. Some of them they will be able to find in the question. I mean, in the reading. Some of them they might have to go out and do research, right? But again, above surface level. I mean, below surface level. So here is the reading that has been provided. Is very dense. That's the only thing I can say about CKLA. The readings are awesome though, but it's slightly dense. But this is what the kids have been reading. So I'm going to give you maybe 4 minutes to kind of read it along. Because then I'm going to show you what we can do during reading that will help the kids analyze this story. Stop it right there. I think you probably read the whole thing. If not, it's okay. As you can tell, it's about the life of a surf boy, specifically on the surf boy and what they do throughout the year, what they have to do, and their roles and that kind of thing. One of the things that I also did before the lesson, obviously, make sure you do the reading before the actual lesson. And what I brought was a lot of the stuff that the serfs eat so the kids can have some realia. My kids live in a food desert, so they don't have access to a lot of these different things like rye bread and that kind of thing. So we were having feasts while we read this. And so some of the things that you can do using your prompts of depth and complexity, number one, is note the fact that this is being done through the lens of a historian, right? So you can look at it through the lens of a historian. You can also note the feudal system and its hierarchy. So the idea of a serf, and where does that put them in the hierarchy? And what are the implications of being in that position in the hierarchy? So then we pose some ethical questions about child labor. So the kids get really like freaked out about the thought that they would have to work all day and not go to school. And what are the implications of that? And this goes into in ongoing discussion about how we have child labor laws in the United States, but not all over the world. And this continues to happen, right? So some kids kind of begin digging through that. The language of the discipline. So what does it mean to be a surf boy? Plowing, harvest, crops, preserve, scythe, wheat, oat, rye, barley, livestock, pottage, right? So some of us, or some of the kids, depending on your students, might know a lot of these, but in my community, we have a lot of EL learners. And so these are the first time that they hear these kinds of words. And we're in the middle of the city, so we don't have access to animals. It's really important to note those. We can also see the connection or from how they go from gathering berries to be able to get to the sun, be able to get through the winter, right? So the process of that. We can also look at the idea of patterns. So patterns in the work schedule, the planting and harvesting schedule. And obviously there's more patterns in there if you continue digging. And the kids are really good at, once they get used to it, they get really good at noticing patterns. We also continue on with the idea of ethics. So the idea of food insecurity and how there still continues to be parallels between the food insecurity with the serfs, but also food insecurity in our own city and their own neighborhoods, right? And those can spark passion projects once they continue to do that. I had a student who had a passion project, and one of the things was actually based on this. And then she wanted to do a food drive. So she ended up doing that. And then also trends, the idea of food insecurity by season, caloric intake needs per season, right? Male and female roles in society. And then once we do that, after you do all of that, again, you do the chart, you take out all the information that you need, but you can continue on with having this passion project. So you choose a player, the astronomist, activist, sociologist, fashion designer, environmentalist, engineers. I have a lot of students that really like towards the activist, or the judge is a huge one in my room, and also psychologist. But you analyze, then you choose a player, you analyze it, and then you do a mini project. And it can be in any form that you want it to be. The products are endless, but here's some that my kids have come up with this specific one. One created a cookbook. Like I told you earlier, he was obsessed with gastronomy. A mock trial, lords versus serfs. A game, songs, caloric intake and impact on the body. That was a PE thing that he wanted to do, right? He had, I had blood pressure monitors, we had stethoscopes, we had different things that we borrowed from the middle school PE teacher. And he did his own thing and really loved it. A food drive, a dance, a news report sketch, which was really funny. And the kids love acting out. And there's so much more. There's so many things that you can come up with. The kids can come up with their own products. And it's really awesome. So we have a few minutes. We have about 5 minutes, 6 minutes left. And I was going to give you an opportunity for you to try, but we kind of run out of time. But if you have any questions, please let me know. Here's my email if you need me. But if you have any questions, please share in the chat. Some of them, most of them I did, because they're very surface level. And I also really, really love, they kind of give me a guide as to where I want to go, which is why I like that they have them, but I do rewrite a lot of them because I really like to put the prompts in there. You can get the prompts on the website. So if you just Google USC and prompts of depth and complexity, you can get them there. So all the little prompts that you see that I had here, I just copied and pasted from there. And they also have the PDF file for you to put them, kind of print them out yourself and put them in your classroom. Yeah, absolutely. You can email me and I can email them. Yeah. I kind of work on them as I go, so I'll share them with you. It depends on what it is. Sometimes I have them do if I sometimes I do it in the unit, sometimes I do it after each of the reading, depending on what the CKLA has provided for me. So as you saw earlier, it was just asking the kids to um, explain what was happening in the picture. My kids need more than that. So that's when I choose to use a frame after a question. Sometimes I want them to analyze the unit, so then I give them a different frame. Sometimes I give them a frame. I have different frames on a table. Some of them are still kind of, you know, unsure of what they can do, so they use a frame with 2 questions. Some are like, all right, I can do this. Then they use the frames with more than 4. There's one that I have that has 6. So then they like doing that. Sometimes I give them the questions. Sometimes they choose their own prompts. Sometimes I give them 4 questions and then they get to choose 1. So there's a lot of room to fiddle with it. A lesson a day can be feasible if you plan it out well. Because again, I'm sure that you know that the CKLA curriculum is very dense. So you really have to have the objective in mind, and not so much the objective, but have your standards in mind so that you can focus on what's important in the read, and that way it's doable in a day. The chart. Are you talking about all the prompts? That was given to me. That was given to me through a PD. But I'm sure if you search, yeah, there are tons of online. Yeah, just Google it. This one specifically, you might want to Google the Santa Ana one because I went to a PD through the Santa Ana Unified. So that's where I got this from. Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, that's the website you can download your prompts from. And they're very cute. So they're very colorful if you want to put them up in your on your walls. I suggest you laminate them so that you can reuse them throughout the year. Also, if you are in need of any of the frames, they're available to you also online for free or TPT. They have a bunch of them, but click on free and then you'll have a slew of them. Yeah, and they're very easy to create. Absolutely. Once you create one, you can keep it forever. Sometimes you don't even have to create them. You can have a kid, can have the kid pull in four ways, make a circle in the center, make lines, and then that's it. There's different ways to do it. Just try and be flexible. Yes.
Thank you so much, Erika. And Dr. Goodwin, go ahead and close us out.
Thank you for attending this webinar featuring Erika Mejia. Your certificate of participation will be emailed to you 1 week after the last day of the event. The next session will begin at 3 p.m. using the same link you used to log into this session. Tag us at CA Gifted on Instagram, X, and Facebook. We would love to see you on social media. Let's take our break.